Her best friend, Mira, had warned her against it. "It's too isolated, Eliza. Houses like that, they come with stories, and not the kind you want to live in." Eliza had laughed it off. She needed this. After losing her fiancé in a car accident 6 months ago, the city had become suffocating. Every street corner, every cafe, was a reminder of what she'd lost. Here, in this lonely house surrounded by nothing but towering oaks and tangled vines, she could finally breathe. Or so she thought. From the moment she stepped inside, the house felt alive. Not in the charming old-world way she'd romanticized, but in a way that made the fine hairs on her arms stand on end. The air was dense, heavy with an odor she couldn't place, something like burnt wood and damp earth. As she unpacked, strange things began to happen, small at first. The kitchen faucet would drip despite being tightly turned off. The floorboards creaked in patterns too deliberate to be the settling of old wood. And then there were the whispers. They started late at night, just as Eliza was drifting off to sleep. Faint, almost imperceptible, like the murmur of distant voices. At first, she thought it was the wind, but one night, as she lay staring at the cracked ceiling, she realized the whispers were coming from inside the house, and they were saying her name. "Eliza!" She bolted upright, heart pounding. "Hello? Is someone there?" Her voice echoed back at her, swallowed by the oppressive silence. In the days that followed, the whispers grew bolder, louder. They didn't just call her name, they told her things no one else could possibly know. The childhood fear of drowning she'd never admitted to anyone. The guilt she carried over missing her fiancé's last phone call. One night, while rummaging through a box of old records left by the previous owners, Eliza found a faded photograph tucked between the pages of an ancient leather-bound journal. The photo showed a family, a man, a woman, and 2 young boys, standing stiffly in front of the house. Their smiles were strained, their eyes hollow. Scrawled on the back of the photo were the words, "We tried to leave. It won't let you." Eliza's breath hitched. She flipped open the journal, its brittle pages crackling like dry leaves. Most of it was filled with mundane entries, weather updates, grocery lists, but toward the end, the handwriting became frantic, almost illegible. "It listens. It knows what you're afraid of. Do not speak to it." That night, the house came alive. It started with the walls. They groaned and shifted, the plaster bubbling and cracking as if the house were breathing. The whispers turned into low, guttural moans, and Eliza swore she saw shadows moving where there shouldn't have been any. Her phone, her last connection to the outside world, refused to work. Every call she tried to make was interrupted by static, and within the static, she heard something chilling. Her own voice, begging for help. Desperate, she ran to the front door, only to find it wouldn't budge. The windows were sealed, too, as if the house had fused itself shut. Panic surged through her. "Let me out!" she screamed, pounding on the door. And then, the house spoke, not with words, but with memories. The walls began to shimmer, and before her eyes, the hallway transformed. She was no longer in the house, but in a car, her fiancé's car. She was in the passenger seat, rain pounding against the windshield. He was driving, smiling at her, oblivious to the truck careening toward them. "No," Eliza whispered, tears streaming down her face. "This isn't real." But it felt real. The impact, the glass shattering, the world spinning, and then, just as suddenly, she was back in the hallway, crumpled on the floor, gasping